I think we can all agree we love video games. That said, everybody loves and hates different games. So why does this guy hate Mario Odyssey when I consider it to be one of the best games of the generation? I think the key is tolerance. People who love certain games tolerate their shortcomings, and those who dislike these games just can't do that. For example, I absolutely love 3D platformers. If a 3D platformer has fun characters, solid controls, a manageable camera, and a dope-ass soundtrack, I'm all the way in. Even if it's universally panned, I just find it fun. This type of stuff just has a way of bringing out the kid in me, where some people just have less patience for that, which is totally fair. So why am I making this video? This is for me to explain what I love and hate in games, so you get an idea of what you're getting with me as a reviewer. There really isn't a definitive answer of what makes a great game, but I think I can help. Without further ado, I introduce you to the 3 video game pillars of Sistianity. Storytelling is a tough one. This doesn't necessarily mean that there is just a good story. A lot of it is about the devices that tell a story. For example, we all know The Last of Us is a badass game. And why wouldn't it be? Great characters, great acting, phenomenal setting. All of these are the makings of a blockbuster game. And honestly, the same makings of maybe a blockbuster movie. Though that's not the only way to tell a story in games. It's the games that tell a story without these things that are the most impressive for me. Any games that make you care about the world with minimal dialogue is an impressive feat. And that's because the key to a good story is good story immersion. To be immersed in a world and its characters is one of the best feelings in video games. And that's honestly why JRPGs hit so hard for me. I mean, I've spent 100 hours in this world with these characters doing things like rescuing cats, making food. Of course I'm going to be emotional whenever I leave this world after we have some grand apex moment with trumpets blaring. Another great example of this is Mass Effect. Mass Effect has a very, very fictional story. Like, really fictional. I mean, there's girls running around with tentacles coming out of the back of their heads. We all somehow speak the same language. So what are we doing here? But it's the characters that are non-fictional. And that's what immersed me in the world and suspended disbelief. While I'm dealing with characters who aren't human, they have very human motivations and human characteristics to them. So I feel like I exist in a world even when I'm jumping through mass relays going halfway across the galaxy. A key to a good story is being relatable. Whether it's through their characters, the adversity, or the world you're surrounded by, nothing beats that moment when a game resonates with you and then, bam, you're in. Video games are just that. Games. To quote Reggie Fils, if a game isn't fun, why bother? If the game has things like constant filler, non-intuitive controls, bad camera work, I want it out of my face. Sure, there are some things where gameplay takes a backseat and lets the story drive, but the gameplay has to make sense in the context of the game. You can't have a huge shift in both gameplay and story and expect everyone just to go along with it. You should never, ever have to endure gameplay just to get to the story. That's the makings of a bad game, and at that point, just make it into a movie or a TV show. Okay, a quick example of poor gameplay. Open worlds. I feel like games are often just open world for the sake of being open world. You're telling me your story couldn't be told in a 20-hour campaign, but instead we have to add 60 hours of running around doing fetch quests and just random arbitrary tasks to get the most out of our game? And the thing is, I don't think this is necessarily the developer's fault. We live in a world where people have to justify their $60 on a game, and the best way for a developer to do that? Just add more hours. And the best way to add more hours? Open world. If I'm spending most of my time staring at markers on my minimap or something along my compass, I'm not really experiencing an open world. An open world is about being genuinely curious and about that building over there and hey, what's that on top of that mountain? I'm not trying to find random objectives or do small things here and there that will just upgrade my weapon. When an open world is focused and has things worth discovering and tells a story through its world, I can deal with that. If the open world isn't crafted intentionally, I'm immediately dropping it. And even if an open world has repetitive content, a big key to it is traversal and getting around that world. If the world's fun to get around, then I can forgive a lot of the fetch questiness of the game. If getting from point A to point B is a lot of fun, then I'm willing to forgive the shortcomings of its actual content. Great gameplay consists of so many different things. Great gameplay loop, Solid progression system, fun combat, tight controls, easy to use UI, intuitive traversal, and a rewarding skill ceiling. Unfortunately, games often miss on these gameplay mechanics. But when they hit, yep, good games. People love their video game characters, but often they forget the universal best character, the sound. Music is maybe one of the most important parts of a video game for me. It just is. If the music is bad and uninspired, I'm willing to bet the game is in the same boat. What makes video games music so great is that it can do so many things. It can really set the tone of your environment. Your battle.
Two enemies remaining. Don't let your guard down. One more. Let's go.
Or your big story beat that they're finally unveiling to the entire crowd.
The Reapers can wipe out the Council and the entire Citadel fleet in a single surprise attack.
With video game music, there's so much soul and character behind each song. The fact that every single water level has a very specific feel and sound to it, your winter and snow levels are really discernible, that's what makes video game music so great. It's how it can set the mood for every single beat in every single frame of that game. Now I'm sure my millions of subs are all clamoring to their keyboards saying, but you love Overwatch, which has like 6 songs in it, and they're only in loading screens. And you know what? You're right, Mr. Keyboard Warrior. While Overwatch does have minimal music, it makes up for it in the best sound design in video games. The sound of the hit marker. Elimination. Capturing the point. Voice lines. All hit harder than your average video game song. In fact, FPSs in general have a phenomenal sound design, and if it sucks, you'll notice. And what about the leveling up sound in RPGs? The fact I can play this sound for you, and you probably know exactly what game that's from and what's happening, shows the power of great sound design. Fight it all you want, but at the end of the day, when it comes to video games, music and sound are king. So there they are, my 3 video game pillars. And don't get me wrong, there's more to video games than just those 3 things. Things like presentation, good animations, technical polish, great netcode, and so on and so forth are all incredibly integral to making a great game. But at its core, I feel like every single great video game should excel in those 3 things: storytelling, gameplay, music, and sound. And just because a game has those 3 things doesn't mean that it's a perfect game. In fact, I actually don't believe there's such thing as a perfect game. Even the best of the best still have little cracks here and there that can probably be tightened up and just made a little bit better. At the end of the day, if a game looks fun to play, play it. I'm not here to gatekeep and tell you what you should and shouldn't play, but if you ever need a little bit of help along the way, trying to figure out how to spend your hard-earned cash, I got you.